The engagement was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. The backyard glowed under warm string lights, draped carefully between the maple trees I'd planted 20 years ago with my own hands. White lanterns floated in the pool, music hummed softly from hidden speakers, and laughter rolled through the air like it always does when family feels safe. My daughter, Emily, stood at the center of it all, her smile brighter than the lights above her. She was wearing a simple cream-colored dress, nothing flashy, because that's who she was.
Kind.
Grounded.
Real.
When Jason, her fiancé, dropped to one knee, the entire party went silent. I remember gripping my wife's hand so tight she whispered, "Breathe." Emily gasped, covered her mouth, nodded through tears. Applause erupted. Champagne corks popped. And for one perfect moment, nothing else in the world existed. Except her. I didn't see Karen Whitmore at first. I felt her. That cold pressure at the back of your neck. The kind that tells you someone nearby is angry enough to ruin something beautiful just because it isn't theirs. Karen was the HOA president. Miserable years of violation letters, fines, intimidation, and power trips. She ruled the neighborhood like a dictator with a clipboard. She hated us. Not because we broke rules,
but because we didn't bow.
The music lowered. Jason stood up. Emily hugged him. People started gathering around to congratulate them. That's when Karen stepped forward from behind the hedges bordering my property. She was wearing a navy blazer, yes, at a backyard engagement party, holding a thick manila folder like a weapon. "I need everyone's attention," she announced loudly. The conversation stalled. Heads turned. I felt my jaw tighten. "Not tonight. Please, not tonight." "Karen," I said, forcing calm into my voice, "this is a private event." She smiled. That tight, fake smile she always used before causing trouble. "This gathering violates HOA noise and occupancy codes," she said. "You never filed an event request." A few guests exchanged confused glances. Emily looked at me. "Dad." I stepped forward. "We're well within city limits. And this is my property." Karen flipped open the folder dramatically. "I also have complaints regarding unapproved lighting, alcohol service without HOA authorization, and..." Jason cut in, politely. "Ma'am, with all due respect." She turned on him instantly. "And you," she snapped, "are not even a resident here." The air went heavy. My wife whispered, "She planned this." Karen's voice grew louder.
Sharper.
"I warned you people about unauthorized events. This neighborhood has standards." I took another step forward. "Karen, leave.
Now."
She leaned in, eyes burning. "You don't get to tell me what to do." And then she did something no one expected. Karen reached into her blazer. At first, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing. Then the metallic glint caught the string lights. A handgun. Someone screamed. Karen raised it, not wildly, not shaking. Controlled. Intentional.
Pointed toward the sky at first.
"You think I'm powerless?" she shouted. "You think you can ignore the HOA?" My heart slammed into my ribs. "Karen," I yelled. "Put it down." She fired.
Bang!
The sound shattered the night. Birds exploded from the trees.
People dropped to the ground.
Emily screamed my name. The shot went into the air, but that didn't matter. She had opened fire at my daughter's engagement party. Chaos erupted. Guests ran. Chairs overturned. Glass shattered. Karen fired again. This time lower. Not aimed at anyone, but close enough to make the message clear. And then I heard sirens. She froze. Her face drained of color. Because she hadn't expected one thing. The police chief was already there. Standing beside the grill. Holding a paper plate. Watching her with a look I will never forget. The paper plate hit the ground before anyone noticed it falling. Potato salad splattered across the grass. The police chief didn't shout. Didn't run. Didn't panic. He simply set his drink down, wiped his hands on a napkin, and took one slow step forward. "Karen," he said calmly, "put the weapon down." Her head snapped toward him. For a split second, she looked confused. Then offended. "And who do you think you are?" she barked, fingers still wrapped around the trigger. My stomach twisted. I knew that voice. That tone. The one she used on residents when she thought she was untouchable. The chief sighed. I'm giving you a lawful order. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, please, she said. You can't tell me what to do on private HOA property. The words barely left her mouth when three things happened at once. Two uniformed officers emerged from the side gate, hands already on their holsters. A third officer stepped out from behind my garage, weapon drawn. And the chief's voice dropped. Cold, sharp, final. Ma'am, I am the chief of police for this city. Karen blinked. Once.
Twice.
No, she said quickly. No, you're not. The denial was almost desperate. I know the chief. He lives on Oak Ridge Drive. You're lying. The chief tilted his head. I moved last year. Silence. You could hear the string lights buzzing. Emily was clinging to my wife behind the patio table, shaking. Jason had his arm around her, jaw clenched, so tight, I thought his teeth might crack. Karen's grip tightened on the gun. You're trespassing, she snapped weakly. This is an HOA-regulated community. The chief didn't raise his voice. Last warning, he said.
Put it down.
She hesitated. That hesitation saved lives. Karen finally lowered the gun just enough for an officer to close the distance. In one swift movement, they knocked it from her hand, pinned her to the ground, and cuffed her. She screamed. You can't do this. I'm the HOA president. One officer replied flatly, You're under arrest for aggravated assault, unlawful discharge of a firearm, and reckless endangerment. Karen's face twisted into something feral. This neighborhood will hear about this. The chief looked down at her. Oh, they already have. He gestured around. Every neighbor's porch light was on.
Phones were raised.
Windows were open. Someone was crying. Someone else was praying. Karen was dragged to her feet, still yelling. You people were violating noise ordinances. I was enforcing rules. The chief turned to me. Sir, he asked quietly, is everyone accounted for? I nodded, throat tight. My daughter, I swallowed. She's okay. He followed my gaze to Emily. His expression softened. I'm sorry this happened, he said. This should never have been allowed to escalate.
Allowed.
That word stuck with me, because Karen hadn't just snapped tonight. She'd been escalating for years. Karen Whitmore didn't start with guns. She started with letters. Violation notices for grass height measured with a ruler. Threats for trash cans visible from certain angles. Fines for holiday decorations one day past the allowed window. She fined a widower $300 for forgetting to bring in his bin the day after his wife's funeral. She tried to fine us for our wheelchair ramp when my wife injured her spine. Not HOA approved, Karen had said smugly. We fought back. Legally.
Calmly.
That made her furious. Because bullies hate resistance. Karen's power wasn't real authority, it was fear. And tonight, she tried to enforce it with a gun. The officers escorted Karen toward the patrol cars. She twisted around, eyes locking on Emily. This is your fault, she screamed. If you hadn't hosted this illegal event, the chief stepped between them. That's enough. Karen was shoved into the back of the cruiser. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed like a verdict. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. But the night wasn't over. Not even close. Most officers would have cleared the scene, taken statements, left. The chief didn't. He stayed. He walked through the yard slowly, surveying the overturned chairs, spilled drinks, shattered peace. Then he turned to the guests. If anyone needs medical attention or wants to give a statement, my officers are available, he said. Otherwise, you're free to go. People started to disperse. But he didn't leave. Instead, he walked over to Emily and Jason. He crouched slightly to meet Emily's eye level. You okay? He asked gently. She nodded, tears streaking her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know she would, he shook his head. This is not on you. Then he stood and turned to me. I'd like to talk, he said. Privately. We stepped aside. He folded his arms. You've had issues with her before. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said. Years of harassment. He nodded slowly. She's been on our radar. That stopped me. She has? We've had multiple complaints, he said. Intimidation. Threats. Abuse of authority. I felt something shift inside me.
Hope.
But nobody ever wanted to press charges, he continued. Until tonight. I looked back at the patrol car where Karen sat fuming. What happens now? The chief's jaw tightened. Now, he said, the HOA problem becomes a criminal one. An officer approached the chief. Sir, he said quietly, body cam footage is clean. Clear discharge. Multiple witnesses. The chief nodded. Good. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number,
Put it on speaker.
City attorney, a voice answered. This is Chief Reynolds, he said. We're going to need an emergency injunction on Whitmore. A pause. For what reason? Firearm discharge at a public gathering. Abusive position. Immediate risk. Another pause. Understood, the voice said. I'll start paperwork. The chief hung up. I stared at him. You can do that? He met my eyes. When someone crosses a line like that, he said, the system moves fast. Karen had spent years hiding behind bylaws. Tonight, she'd stepped into real law. What Karen didn't know the chief was my daughter's future father-in-law's best friend. She didn't know half the guests were city employees. She didn't know the entire thing was recorded from 6 different angles. And she definitely didn't know. This was just the beginning. Karen was out on bail by morning. That alone told me how deeply broken the system could be, because if this were anyone else, they'd still be sitting in a holding cell wondering where their life went wrong. But Karen had money, and lawyers, and a lifetime habit of believing rules were something she controlled, not followed. By noon, every homeowner in the neighborhood had an email in their inbox. The message was written in Karen's voice. I could practically hear the fake professionalism dripping through the screen. Due to recent misunderstandings and false reports, an emergency HOA meeting will be held tonight at 7 p.m. in the community clubhouse. Attendance is required to ensure transparency and prevent misinformation. Misunderstandings. False reports. I read it twice, then laughed. A short, humorless laugh that surprised even me. Emily sat on the couch beside me, wrapped in a blanket, though the house was warm. She's really doing this? She asked. She always does, I said. She tries to control the narrative. Jason clenched his fists. After what she did? By afternoon, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. Did you see the video? She fired a gun. At people. My kids were there. HOA can't protect her now. Chief Reynolds was literally there. Someone leaked the body cam footage. Not officially, but it didn't matter. Karen raising the gun. It was everywhere. The clubhouse parking lot was overflowing. People who had never attended an HOA meeting were suddenly very motivated. Karen arrived 10 minutes late.
Of course she did.
She walked in wearing a beige power suit, hair perfectly styled, posture rigid, like she was walking into a boardroom, not a room full of people who now despised her. She didn't look at anyone. She went straight to the podium, cleared her throat. Let's come to order, she said sharply. This meeting is to address. She was cut off instantly. You fired a gun near my kids. A woman in the front row stood up, shaking. Karen frowned. Ma'am, you're out of order. Another man stood. You don't get to say that anymore. Applause erupted. Karen's face tightened. This meeting, she snapped, will follow HOA protocol. That's when the doors opened. And everything changed. Chief Reynolds entered the clubhouse. Not in uniform, but that didn't matter. The room went silent. He wasn't supposed to be there. HOA meetings were private. Karen turned, saw him, and her composure cracked for the first time. You can't be here, she stammered. He smiled thinly. I was invited, he said. He gestured behind him. Jason's father stepped in. Then 2 city council members. Then a representative from the city attorney's office. Karen's hand gripped the podium. This is an HOA matter, she insisted. This is not, the city attorney interrupted her. Actually, Ms. Whitmore, this is now a public safety matter. A murmur rippled through the room. Karen's voice rose. "IFA was enforcing HOA regulations." The chief spoke calmly. "You discharged a firearm in a residential area." She slammed her hand on the podium. I felt threatened. That's when the chief nodded to the projector screen behind her. "Roll it." The body cam footage played on the screen. Karen pulling the gun. Karen yelling. Karen firing. Children screaming. Someone gasped. Someone else started crying. Karen turned pale. "This footage," the city attorney said, "has been submitted into evidence." Karen spun around. "This is harassment." The chief stepped forward.
"No," he said.
"This is accountability." The city attorney placed a folder on the table. "Under emergency provisions," she said, "the HOA board can vote tonight to suspend the president pending criminal investigation." Karen laughed nervously. "You can't be serious." The board members, people who had once been terrified of her, avoided her eyes. Then one of them spoke. "I vote yes." Another followed. Karen's mouth opened. No sound came out. The final vote was unanimous. The city attorney closed the folder. "Effective immediately," she said, "you are suspended from all HOA authority." The room erupted. Karen screamed, "You can't do this. This is my neighborhood." The chief looked at her. "It never was." Karen grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But an officer stepped in front of her. "Ms. Whitmore," he said, "we need you to come with us." Her face twisted in rage. "For what?" The officer didn't flinch. "Violation of bail conditions." The room froze. "You contacted witnesses," he continued. "You attempted to influence testimony." Karen's knees buckled. She looked around the room, at the neighbors she'd bullied, fined, and threatened for years. No one helped her. She was escorted out in silence. The chief turned to the room. "I want to be clear," he said. "No HOA has authority to intimidate or endanger residents. If you've experienced misconduct, now is the time to come forward." Hands went up. So many hands. Complaints poured out. Stories of fines. Threats. Harassment. Years of fear, finally released. I looked at Emily. She was crying again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was relief. Karen Whitmore didn't walk into court the way she used to walk into HOA meetings. She shuffled in wearing a wrinkled gray suit, hair pulled back too tight, eyes darting around the courtroom like a trapped animal. And for the first time since I'd known her, she looked small. The prosecutor didn't waste time. "Ms. Whitmore," she said, voice steady, "you're charged with aggravated assault, unlawful discharge of a firearm, reckless endangerment, witness intimidation, and abuse of authority." Karen's lawyer objected. The judge overruled him. The prosecutor continued. "These charges stem from an incident in which the defendant discharged a firearm during a private family engagement, causing mass panic and placing multiple adults and children in danger." She gestured toward the gallery. Emily sat beside me, hands folded in her lap. Jason's arm was around her shoulders. Karen glanced at them. Her eyes burned with resentment.
"No remorse."
Just anger that her power had been taken away. The first witness was the officer who disarmed her. Then the neighbors. Then the city noise enforcement officer who testified that no violations existed that night. And finally, the chief took the stand. The courtroom leaned in. He spoke calmly, precisely. "She ignored repeated lawful commands," he said. "She discharged a weapon without provocation." The defense tried to twist it. She felt threatened by a hostile crowd. The chief met the lawyer's eyes. The crowd became hostile after she fired. The judge nodded slowly. Karen's jaw tightened. The prosecutor requested the body cam footage be played again. Karen shook her head violently. No, the judge allowed it. The shots echoed through the courtroom speakers. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen stared straight ahead, face rigid. Emily squeezed my hand. When the footage ended, the judge removed his glasses. "This court has seen enough," he said.
Karen stood,
hands trembling. The judge spoke clearly. "You abused a position of trust. You endangered lives. And you demonstrated no remorse.
He paused.
You're sentenced to 3 years in state prison, followed by 5 years probation. Karen cried out.
No.
This is ridiculous. I was protecting the neighborhood. The judge raised his voice for the first time. You were protecting your ego. The gavel came down. Just like that. 2 weeks later, the HOA held its final meeting. Without Karen, without fear, without threats. A vote was called and passed. Unanimously, the HOA was dissolved. The neighborhood breathed again. 6 months later, Emily walked down the aisle. Same backyard, same trees, same lights. But this time, no fear. The chief attended again, this time as a guest. When Emily and Jason said their vows, I looked around at the neighbors.
People laughing.
Children running. Freedom. After the ceremony, the chief shook my hand. You did the right thing, he said. So did you, I replied. He smiled. Bullies only win when people stay quiet. Karen sent 1 letter from prison.
Handwritten. No apology.
Just blame. We didn't respond. Some people never change. But the world changed around her. And that was enough.